To tame my wild, CO wife and turn her into a doting partner, I laid down the law on our very first day of marriage. I would not tolerate any form of betrayal. So, to prove her sincerity, she signed 2 copies of a divorce agreement in advance, promising that if her heart ever strayed, I could sign them and end our marriage at any moment. Then her first love came back to the States. The guy was a notorious player, and even though Chloe had been completely faithful to me, she couldn't stop herself from being drawn to him, time and time again, until she slipped up and got pregnant. Chloe kept this a dead secret. Her parents knew, her best friends knew, but they all helped her cover it up. They knew I was her entire world, and that if I found out, I would leave without a second thought, which would make Chloe lose her mind. So, to push her right over the edge, I did 3 things. First, I saved every single taunting video her first love sent me. Second, I gathered all the gifts she'd given me, worth millions, and listed every last one of them online for $9.99 with free shipping. Third, I took our 331 wedding invitations and changed the groom's name on every single one to her first love's. Then I drove alone to a restaurant. "Sir, here is the divorce agreement from the safe," my secretary said. Inside the steakhouse, she handed me the papers. I signed my name and instructed her to deliver it to Chloe in 7 days. 7 days from now is my birthday. I would be leaving Chloe, flying to Aspen, and simultaneously arranging a wedding for her and Julian Vance, giving them my blessing. After my secretary left, my phone buzzed with a notification. It was Chloe, using her company's official Twitter account to post a photo of a brilliant blue fireworks display, tagging me with the caption, "Happy 5th anniversary, my love. I'll love you forever, Ethan." The post blew up instantly, hitting over 999 comments in less than a minute. "I'm so jealous." So that's why there was an hour-long blue fireworks show over Chicago tonight. It was for him. 5 years of marriage, and she's just as public with her affection as ever. I heard that last year after surgery, she was still groggy from the anesthesia when she saw him, and the first thing she asked was, "You have a sensitive stomach? Did you remember to eat lunch?" The nurses were practically in tears. Amidst the flood of comments, Chloe replied to that one, "Ethan is my husband. Loving and caring for him is my duty as his wife." Instantly, the replies filled with messages of adoration. And me, the object of all this envy, just stared blankly at the empty chair across the table. The truth is, Chloe and I were in love once. We were together for 7 years and never had a single fight. For those 7 years, Chloe, the powerful CEO, gave me everything, her wealth and her affection. But 1 month ago, on a night she was away on business, I discovered she wasn't just mine anymore. She sent me a voice message. When I played it, it wasn't her voice, but a man's. Been back in the country 6 months, and all it took was a little wink to get her back. She arranged this blue fireworks show for me tonight. I'm not a fan of blue, so happy anniversary. Don't let them go to waste. I didn't know who he was then, but 2 weeks ago at a party, Chloe walked into our private room with him. "This is my distant cousin," she introduced. Julian Vance's handsome face broke into a wide, cheerful grin. "Hey," he said, "been back for over 6 months. It's great to finally meet my cousin's husband." His voice, magnetic and sickeningly familiar, made my mind go completely blank. I couldn't stand it and left early. Chloe came home late, and I got a text from an unknown number. "The rooftop was intense tonight. I might have gotten a little rough, left some marks. Gotta say, my ex is still a wildcat. She'll do anything I ask." I looked over at Chloe, passed out drunk on our bed. 2 of her blouse buttons were undone, revealing a chest covered in scratches. The white shirt she was wearing was the one I'd had custom-made for her last year, the matching half to my own, with wife embroidered on the collar by my own hand. The night I gave it to her, she'd held my hand, moved, and promised, "Ethan, whenever I wear this, it will be a reminder to keep my distance from other men. I'll save myself only for you." Now that word was tainted with a cloying, unfamiliar scent. Which brings us to today, our 5th anniversary. I arrived at the steakhouse first. 5 minutes later, she called. She was preparing a surprise, she said, and couldn't make it for our candlelight dinner. She told me to enjoy the fireworks on my own. She hung up. 2 minutes later, a photo arrived via iMessage. I opened it. It was her and Julian, having their own candlelight dinner, complete with flowers and red wine. The picture of romance. I imagined she probably sent that loving tweet while lying in his arms. I ignored her public declaration of love, got up, and went home. Back in our bedroom, I asked the housekeeper for a pair of scissors. I took out my matching shirt, the one with husband on the collar, and cut it to ribbons. Then I did the same to our marriage certificate, placing all the pieces in a gift box labeled, "A gift for your second marriage." Just as I finished, I turned and saw Chloe standing there. Her face was a mask of gentle affection as she took my hand. "Honey, I have a surprise for you. Come downstairs and see." Downstairs, a large truck was parked outside, carrying a massive, deep blue gift box. Chloe clapped her hands, and the box opened automatically. Balloons and streamers flew out, revealing a slate-gray Maybach. Two men quickly unfurled a banner that read, "For Mr. Ethan Miller." The crowd of onlookers gasped in envy. Chloe held out the keys, her voice dripping with affection. "Honey, you mentioned wanting a new car the other day, and I remembered. As your wife, it's my job to get you everything you desire." As I took the keys, my eyes caught a mark on the right side of her neck, a hickey poorly hidden under a layer of concealer. A wave of disgust washed over me, and I scowled. "What is it? You don't like the car? The color?" she asked, her eyes filling with concern. I shook my head, my eyes stinging. "The car is fine," I said, looking right at her. "It's not the Maybach I don't want. It's the woman who gave it to me." Hearing that, Chloe seemed to relax. As we walked back into the bedroom, her eyes landed on the gift box on her vanity. She moved toward it, but I stepped in front, covering the label with my hand. "Honey, is this a surprise for me?" A flicker of delight crossed her face. I forced a smile. "It is, but you can't have it yet. I'm preparing a second gift. In 7 days I'll give them both to you. Knowing you, I think you'll absolutely love them." A double surprise in 7 days. Chloe looked intrigued, but after a moment, she muttered to herself, "What's happening in 7 days?" Suddenly, it dawned on her. She stepped out of the room and called her assistant. "I almost forgot. It's my husband's birthday in 7 days. I need you to plan a massive party. Yes, the bigger the better. I always go all out for my birthday, so I can't skimp on his." As she spoke on the phone, she didn't see me standing in the doorway, my expression as cold as ice. In 7 years, she had never once forgotten my birthday. But this year, with Julian back in the picture, it had completely slipped her mind. Fine by me. I was curious to see the look on her face when the guest of honor didn't show up to the lavish party she was planning. I texted my secretary, "Find out which hotel she's booking for my birthday party. Then, book the floor directly above it for a wedding reception." "Yes, sir." I turned to take a shower. Just as Chloe was about to re-enter the bedroom, her assistant called again. "Oh, and Ms. Sullivan, don't forget you're supposed to take your husband to that barbecue joint near the university tonight. He'll be really upset if he misses it." Right, I almost forgot. Order his usual. I'll take him over." She hung up and rushed back into the room. I'd heard every word. She took the bathrobe from my hands and set it aside. "Ethan, let's go get barbecue by the university. I already called the owner, so it'll be ready when we arrive." That little barbecue joint was my favorite spot back in college. It was where Chloe and I first met, thanks to a chance encounter. We got married 2 years later, and every anniversary since, she'd brought me back here. She used to plan it weeks in advance. Now, she needed her assistant to remind her it was even happening. An hour later, her black Bentley, looking completely out of place, pulled up in front of the tiny restaurant. A young influencer, live streaming on her phone, spotted us and rushed over. "Oh my God, it's the legendary doting wife, Chloe Sullivan. Everyone watching, look, my favorite power couple is real. The rumors are true. She brings him here every year for their anniversary." Chloe got out, took my hand, and started walking toward the entrance. She noticed my collar was crooked and, in full view of everyone, stopped, stood on her toes, and fixed it for me. The college girls nearby sighed with envy. One of them was bold enough to approach us. "A billionaire CEO fixing her husband's collar. That's so sweet. I wish you two a lifetime of happiness." I watched her, my face a blank mask, then turned to the student and offered a polite, distant smile. Chloe and I went inside and took our usual table by the window. She called out to the owner. "Is our order ready? Leeks, chicken wings, oysters, and grilled buns. A little bit of spice. My husband loves it that way. And 2 room temperature Cokes, please." "Coming right up. Just pulled them off the grill," the owner replied, smiling. She remembered us well. She brought the food to our table, her face beaming. 5 years now, and you two are still so in love. Any plans for a little one?" Chloe looked at me, a blush creeping up her cheeks. "We're letting nature take its course. Hopefully by the end of the year. I'd love to have a little Ethan." I stared down at the food on my plate and said nothing. Chloe thoughtfully passed me a skewer. Suddenly, a man came in and told Chloe her car had been scraped by another vehicle. He said she should come take a look. Chloe frowned, annoyed. I'll go check. Honey, you start eating. I'll deal with this and be right back. Order anything else you want, but nothing cold. It's bad for your stomach. Her considerate words once again earned envious sighs from the other customers. The owner smiled at my silence. Mr. Miller, you're a lucky man. It's rare to find a woman so beautiful, gentle, and devoted. I gave a bitter smile. Yes, very rare. So rare, in fact, that I haven't met one either. Not wanting to continue, I turned to look out the window. Chloe followed the man outside. He leaned in and said something to her. She nodded, then quickly got into a black G-Wagon parked next to her Bentley. The G-Wagon looked familiar. At that party, Julian had arrived in a black G-Wagon with the exact same license plate. I'd heard she bought it for him as a welcome home gift. Cost nearly $3 million, about the same as the Maybach she'd just given me. Chloe was a master of playing both sides, keeping her first love and her husband on equal footing. I couldn't see what was happening inside the car. I looked away as my phone rang with an unknown number. I hesitated, then answered. A familiar voice came through the speaker. You're getting clever, having someone call me out like that, Chloe's voice purred playfully. Did you get my location from my assistant? I told you I'd come over to you after he's asleep. Julian's voice was husky, laced with petulance. I can't stand it. The thought of you with him on your anniversary, thinking about what you're going to do later, it's driving me crazy. She laughed softly, trying to soothe him. I've been with you all week. I can't just brush him off tonight. I want you to, just get him home and then come find me. You big baby, just follow my car later. You little minx, always tempting me. A moment later, I heard the wet sound of them kissing. My hand shaking, I ended the call. Looking at the food in front of me, I suddenly felt sick to my stomach. It felt like something was squeezing my heart, making it pound in my chest. I felt dizzy, sick all over. I picked up my fork and stabbed at the food on my plate, mashing it into a pulp. Half an hour later, Chloe returned. She saw my untouched food, then her eyes darted to my pale face. Her expression tightened. You look terrible. Are you feeling sick? I'll take you to a doctor right now. She sounded genuinely frantic. I turned away, unable to look at her hypocritical face. I heard something disgusting. Lost my appetite. What did you hear? She pressed, her brow furrowed with worry. You don't want to know, I said, my eyes burning. Confused, she stood up to hug me, but I moved away. I stood up, walked out of the restaurant, and hailed the first taxi I saw, telling the driver to take me home. Ethan, wait! When she couldn't stop the cab, she jumped into her Bentley and sped after us. I watched from the back seat, the ridiculous scene playing out in the rearview mirror. The Bentley tailing the taxi, and the black G-Wagon tailing the Bentley. Once we were inside my neighborhood, I got out. Chloe got out too, rushing to grab my hand. Honey, why are you so angry? Is it because I left you alone to deal with the car? I looked up at her. Her face was a perfect picture of concern and guilt, but there wasn't a trace of fear. Not the fear of someone who'd just been caught. She sighed. It was my fault. I shouldn't have left. Next time, the car could be totaled, and I'll stay with my husband. She paused, then took my hand, her voice cautious. My assistant just called. A very important client had an accident, a terrible fall. He's in critical condition. I have to go. Is that okay, honey? I saw it then, a flicker of excitement and anticipation in her eyes, hidden beneath a mask of reluctance. So desperate to meet him that she'd invent a lie about a client falling off a building. I gave a slight, humorless smile, too tired to call her out. Okay, I said quietly, and walked toward the house. But I didn't go inside. Instead, I walked over to the parking area and watched as the two of them embraced passionately in the G-Wagon. Inside, Julian's eyes burned with desire as Chloe's hands eagerly slipped inside his coat. He caught her hand. Seeing the look in her eyes, a smirk played on his lips. Let's go somewhere else. You like a thrill, don't you? How about the lake tonight? Chloe's eyes widened in surprise. His Adam's apple bobbed. The G-Wagon's engine roared to life, and they sped out of the garage. My phone buzzed. It was a message from Julian. I opened it to find a map pin dropped by the lake. Half an hour later, I was in another taxi, watching that same black G-Wagon from a distance. Chloe opened the sunroof. Within a minute, the vehicle began to rock violently. My eyes burning, I watched the car shake, a chill seeping deep into my bones. With a shaking hand, I recorded a 5-minute video and sent it to my secretary. On the day of the wedding, I said, my voice hoarse, play this. After sending the message, I called my mom. Mom, I'm coming to Aspen in 7 days to see you and Dad. My mom heard the tremor in my voice. Is Chloe coming with you? She asked, her tone sharp. I'm coming alone. All right, don't be sad, she said, her voice softening. She probably guessed what had happened. I'll be at the airport to pick you up. Chloe was loud when she came back, waking me from a dead sleep. She was drunk, cupping my face in her hands and kissing me over and over. Maybe my anger from earlier had unsettled her, because she kept murmuring, honey, I love you so much. You can yell at me, you can hit me, but please never, ever leave me. Okay, don't worry. I would never cheat on you. I stared at her coldly. She must have been too drunk to remember to cover the marks on her neck. And yet, the love in her eyes looked so real, without a hint of falsehood. The next morning, I woke in a daze to find she had already put toothpaste on my toothbrush, poured me warm mouthwash, and laid out my clothes for the day. Once I was ready, we went downstairs together. At the breakfast table, her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, then looked at me apologetically. Honey, I won't be home tonight. I have a party to go to. I paused, my fork halfway to my mouth. I knew she was going to be with Julian. I didn't have the energy to call her on it. After she left, I hailed a cab and followed her. 20 minutes later, she pulled into a nice apartment complex. Julian was waiting for her, dressed in a stylish gray overcoat and a teal scarf, looking handsome and cheerful. He saw her Bentley approaching, waved with a smirk, and casually slid into the passenger seat. They must have spent a few minutes getting close in the car before she drove out of the complex. Half an hour later, the Bentley pulled up in front of a bridal photography studio. Julian got out, and as Chloe joined him, he naturally took her arm and led her inside. An employee at the door greeted them warmly. Ms. Sullivan, Mr. Vance, welcome. We've cleared the studio for you as requested. Let me show you the styles we've prepared for your photo shoot. From my taxi, I watched, my face numb, as a cold dread spread through me. Suddenly, my phone rang. It was my best friend, Kevin. Where are you? He asked cheerfully. Let's go grab a coffee. I told him the address of the bridal studio. There was a pause on his end, then a whistle of admiration. Dude, married 5 years and you're already redoing your wedding photos? You two are more in love than ever. Makes a single guy like me jealous. I felt a pang of bitterness. Kevin, I said, my voice hollow. She's not taking them with me. He was silent for a moment, then the realization hit him. With another guy? Chloe's cheating on you? Stay put. I'll be there in 20 minutes later, I was sitting in Kevin's car. As he questioned me with worried eyes, I told him everything that had happened since Julian came back. I played him the voice message from a month ago, the one Julian sent from her phone. Then I gestured to the studio with a bitter smile. And as you can see, it's Julian's birthday today, and she's celebrating by taking wedding photos with him. Kevin looked. Inside, Chloe was adjusting the collar of Julian's suit, her expression tender, her movements as delicate as if she were handling a priceless work of art. Kevin couldn't take it. That's it. I'm going in there and knocking them both out. I'll make them pay for this. He had a short fuse and was already rolling up his sleeves, but I stopped him. Wait, I want to see what they do next. Half an hour later, Chloe and Julian emerged from the studio. He was in a sharp black tuxedo, and she was in a stunning, form-fitting white wedding gown. They held hands as they got back into the Bentley. A short while later, they arrived at the lake. The area had been roped off to prevent any onlookers or paparazzi. The photographer was already waiting. Ms. Sullivan, Mr. Vance, you two are a perfect match, he gushed. Truly the most gorgeous couple I've ever had the pleasure of shooting. Julian squeezed Chloe's arm. What can I say? I have good taste. My wife is a knockout. Over the next 30 minutes, they changed outfits 3 times. It was cold, and between shots, Chloe would thoughtfully drape a heavy coat over Julian's shoulders. Whenever Julian seemed to be struggling with a pose, she would offer him warm words of encouragement until he got it right. After the shoot was over, she didn't seem to be in any rush to leave. She suddenly dropped to one knee. As Julian stared in shock, she produced a bouquet of roses and a ring. You once told me you were jealous of Ethan because I was the one who proposed to him. I told you I could propose to you too, but you understood my situation and said it wasn't necessary. But I can't let you feel second best. Julian, will you marry me? Julian's eyes welled up with tears as he nodded eagerly. Yes, 1,000 times, yes. The photography crew erupted in cheers. Kiss her, I watched from the car, my face a frozen mask, feeling the last bit of warmth leave my body. 5 years ago, when she proposed to me, she had looked at me with that same deep affection. She had worn a beautiful white dress, held a bouquet of vibrant roses, and presented me with a ring she'd chosen herself. She had even choked back tears as she said, "Ethan, you're the only man I will ever love. No one else will ever have my heart. Please marry me. I swear, if I ever cheat on you, I'll wish I were dead." I let out a cold, harsh laugh that slowly turned into a sob. It was all a lie. The vows, the promises, even her love. It was all fleeting. Kevin looked at me, his expression pained. "They're leaving," he said softly. "Do you want to follow?" "Follow them," I said, my gaze drifting out the window. "I want to see where she takes him next." An hour later, the Bentley pulled up to an upscale restaurant. It was in the most exclusive part of Chicago, with window seats that were nearly impossible to reserve. It wasn't peak dinner time, so the restaurant was mostly empty. Each table was separated by privacy screens. Clearly, Chloe had taken every precaution. After they went in, I went to a nearby store and bought a change of clothes, something nondescript, along with a hat and a face mask, before heading inside myself. Kevin had already taken care of everything, paying off another patron to get us the table directly behind hers. Just as they were settling in, a middle-aged couple was led to their table by the host. They looked to be in their 50s, ordinary enough, though the man bore a striking resemblance to Julian. "No way," Kevin whispered. "Is she meeting his parents?" My face impassive, I took out my phone, found an angle through a gap in the screen, and snapped a few pictures. My timing was perfect. I caught the exact moment Chloe handed an exclusive-looking credit card to Julian's mother. Kevin seethed. "Wow, the cheating bitch is generous. I'll give her that." I slowly lowered my phone. "Let's go. I can't stand to be here another second." Downstairs, Kevin offered to drive me home, but I shook my head. "Kevin, my head's a mess. I just need to be alone right now." He didn't push, just told me to be careful. After he left, I started walking, aimlessly, down the street. The temperature had dropped below freezing, and I was only wearing a thin jacket, but the cold I felt in my bones had nothing to do with the weather. I don't know how long I'd been walking when my phone buzzed. It was a message from her. I opened it. 3 of their wedding photos filled the screen. In one, she was leaning against him intimately, looking up at him with adoration. In another, they were locked in a passionate kiss. And the third was of her on one knee, holding the roses up to him, while he grinned, triumphant. "We took our wedding photos today. She proposed to me in front of everyone. I was so moved. She even insisted on meeting my parents. We've done everything a married couple does, short of signing the papers. Who says sharing a wife is a bad thing? I'm fine with it. The question is, are you? It's no loss for me either way." I stared at Julian's arrogant words and didn't reply. I forwarded the 3 wedding photos to my secretary, along with the picture I took of the 4 of them at dinner, and screenshots of all my conversations with Julian. "Display all of this at the wedding," I instructed. After that, I put my phone away and continued walking like a zombie, completely oblivious to the black sedan that was careening out of control, straight towards me. Before I could react, the car hit me, sending me flying several feet through the air. A long time later, I opened my eyes to the sharp smell of antiseptic and the sterile white of a hospital room. Chloe, seeing I was awake, rushed to my bedside, her eyes wide with worry and fear. "You're awake? Does anything hurt?" My eyes slowly focused on her. Her eyes were red-rimmed, and she looked at me with such a mixture of tension and pain. It was as if she wished she could take the injury for me. I just felt sick. The image of their intimate wedding photos flashed in my mind, and my stomach turned. "Chloe, which version of you is real? Why aren't you saying anything? Where does it hurt?" "I'll get the doctor," she said, turning to leave. I reached out and grabbed her hand. "Why are you here?" I asked, my voice raspy. She froze. When the hospital had called, she'd still been at dinner with Julian and his parents. A wave of terror had washed over her, and she'd abandoned them to rush to my side. Luckily, I wasn't seriously hurt. I was at a dinner meeting with a client. A big deal. "The hospital called about your accident, so I came right away." I stared at her. "Just came from the client?" "Yes. I'm exhausted," she said, rubbing her temples. I slowly closed my eyes, saying nothing more. She sat with me for a while until her phone rang. She immediately declined the call, but they called back immediately. This time, she silenced it and started texting furiously. A minute later, her face lit up. She made a quick excuse and hurried out. Not long after she left, Kevin arrived, looking grim. You'll never guess who I just saw on my way up. I managed to sit up. Chloe, I guessed after a moment. He grimaced. The third floor of this hospital is obstetrics and gynecology. When the elevator doors opened, I saw Chloe and Julian standing there. Something felt off, so I followed them. I saw Julian holding her pregnancy test results, grinning from ear to ear, telling her she was going to be a mom. I looked down, my face showing no emotion. So, she's pregnant. Kevin stared at me, sensing something was off but unable to put his finger on it. He leaned in and felt my forehead. You're not angry? You don't have a fever. Your brain isn't fried. A small, wan smile touched my lips. You don't know this, Kevin, but Chloe has a medical condition. The doctors said she could never have children. 3 years ago, we tried for a year to get pregnant with no success. I thought it was my fault and scheduled a checkup for myself. Worried about the stress it was putting on me, she insisted on getting checked as well. The results came back. She was the one who was infertile. I didn't sleep that night. I told myself I could accept a life without children, as long as I had her love. I was so worried about her pride, about how it might affect her career, that I asked the doctor to lie. We told everyone that I was the one with the issue, that I needed treatment before we could conceive. And now, seeing her so thrilled to be a mother, my 3 years of careful deception felt like a pathetic joke. Holy hell, what a bombshell! Kevin was practically bouncing with excitement. He rubbed his hands together. I have an idea. Ethan, you're leaving for Aspen in 5 days. Let's just play dumb. This pregnancy is obviously Julian's doing. He's going to be in for a world of hurt when he can't deliver. We'll just sit back and watch the show. Then, when the time is right, we'll mail her the original infertility report. I want to see her face when she finds out the truth. The next morning, Chloe didn't come to the hospital. That afternoon, my secretary came to my room. After updating me on the wedding plans, she hesitated. I raised an eyebrow. Just say it. She spoke carefully. Ms. Sullivan had me drop off some files at the house around noon. When I got there, Julian was in the living room in his pajamas sitting on your sofa. Sir, you've always been very kind to me, and I just couldn't bear to see that and not tell you. A cold fury started in my gut and spread through my veins. I was still in the hospital, and he had already moved into my home. No wonder she'd made such a point of telling me to let her know before I was discharged, so she could be the one to pick me up. I understand. Thank you. I picked up my phone and pulled up the feed from our home security cameras. The screen was black. She had covered the lenses. I frowned, then looked at my secretary, who was still waiting. Tonight, I'll arrange for them to be out of the house. I need you to have someone go in and install new cameras. She nodded. Yes, sir. At 10 that night, Chloe came to my room, her eyes filled with apology. Honey, did you ask me to come because you missed me? I'm sorry. I was so busy today. I cut her off, giving her an easy excuse. I know. You were busy planning my birthday party. That's why you're so late. She looked surprised for a second, then smiled and took my hand, lacing her fingers through mine. You know me so well. I stared right at her. Yes, I said, my voice even. I know you. I know everything you do. Her heart seemed to skip a beat. She opened her mouth to say something, but just then a nurse came in to change my four. The next day, I checked the new camera feed. Julian and Chloe were having lunch in my house. He was sitting in my chair at the dining table. Chloe was pouting, saying her pregnancy was making her nauseous and she didn't want to eat. He was patiently coaxing her, feeding her with a spoon. Come on, be good. You need to be strong for the baby. A blissful smile spread across her face. After lunch, Julian went upstairs. Chloe gathered the household staff. Julian doesn't have an official place here yet, so it's understandable if he's moody sometimes. Please be patient with him. And one more thing. When Ethan comes home, none of you are to mention that Julian has been staying here. Yes, ma'am. I watched the footage calmly, then looked away and began dictating the wedding invitation text to my secretary. 3 days before my departure, Chloe arrived early in the morning with a container of soup. I had the cook make your favorite pork rib and vegetable soup. Here, have some. I didn't refuse, taking small, slow sips. Half an hour after she left, I checked the cameras again. Julian was in the living room with her, watching videos about prenatal development. He stroked her stomach, his face soft. Honey, you have such beautiful eyes. I hope the baby gets your eyes. She smiled. And you have a strong jawline. The baby can have your face shape. That evening, my lawyer came to my room. Mr. Miller, your divorce from Ms. Sullivan is now legally in effect. Thank you. I looked at the papers, then turned to my secretary. Make a copy of this and put it in the gift box. This 7-year nightmare was finally coming to an end. 2 days to go. Chloe arrived with a bouquet of sunflowers and an expensive-looking jade pendant. Seeing that I was recovering well, she smiled and put the pendant around my neck. You can go home tomorrow. I went to see a spiritual master last night and got this for you. It's for protection. I looked down at the pendant, my expression hardening. Last night, Julian had a minor surgery for appendicitis. Chloe had been worried sick, and after dropping him at the hospital, she'd rushed off to get a protective charm for him. This pendant was clearly an afterthought. Just after she left, my secretary arrived. Sir, the invitations are ready. We'll send them out electronically as soon as you're on the plane. He paused. Also, Ms. Sullivan just bought the villa directly behind your house. Paid a premium for it. I frowned. But someone lives there. My secretary shook his head slightly. Yes, sir. But she offered them an exorbitant amount of money, plus a lucrative business contract, to convince them to sell. I'm told the deed is in Julian's name only. I pressed my lips together, my eyes cold as steel. She was setting up a love nest for him right behind my back. That evening, I watched on the cameras as Julian reluctantly directed the staff to move his belongings into the house next door. Today was my last day. Chloe arrived early to take me home from the hospital. In the car, she carefully fastened my seatbelt. Ethan, she said softly, it's your birthday. The party is all set for 7 tonight. Don't forget to invite your friends. Okay. The car pulled into our driveway. After 4 days, I was home. Everything was exactly as I had left it. It was as if Julian had never set foot inside. I walked into the master bedroom. On her vanity sat an electric razor. I glanced at it. It was a designer brand, an expensive one. Left there intentionally, no doubt. A quiet little declaration of his presence. I wasn't in the room for long before the housekeeper called me down for a meal. At the table, she peeled a shrimp and held it to my lips. Her movements intimate and tender, just like Julian's had been with her 2 days before. I chewed slowly, looking into her soft, loving eyes. I began. And this is just a hypothetical. If you had a dream that I left you, would you be sad? She stopped, her hand freezing mid-peel. Her expression grew tense, and she grabbed my hand. Ethan, I wouldn't just be sad. I would lose my mind. Don't ever leave me. I pressed my lips together, about to speak, when her phone, sitting on the table, buzzed. My eyes flicked to the screen. It was a text from Julian. My incision is bleeding. It hurts so much. Is something seriously wrong? A flicker of panic crossed her face. She shot up from her chair. Ethan, there's a problem with the party setup. I have to go deal with it. I'll come back to get you for the party later. She turned to go, but I grabbed her hand, a small, knowing smile on my face. Chloe, I said, goodbye. She whipped around, her body jolting as she looked at me, at the stillness in my eyes. My eyes used to be filled with nothing but her. When had they become so empty and cold? Ethan, you? She started to say something else, but her phone buzzed again, and she rushed out the door. I went to the bedroom, packed my things, and threw her jade pendant in the trash. Then I called my secretary. Chloe has gone to be with Julian. I'm on my way to the airport. Once I've boarded, proceed with the plan for tonight. Oh, and make sure Julian gets an invitation to his own wedding. Yes, sir. An hour later, I was through security at the airport. I texted my parents that I'd be boarding in 30 minutes. Then I opened my iMessage conversation with Chloe. I have 2 surprises for you tonight, I typed. I hope you like them. She replied instantly. Honey, I can't wait. I'm still at the venue for the party, have to oversee everything myself. Wait for me to come get you. I smiled. No need to pick me up. I'll make my own way to the Grand State Hotel. Her party was on the 2nd floor. The wedding was on the 3rd. I needed her to be there, waiting for me, so that when my secretary sent out the wedding invitations, the ceremony on the 3rd floor could begin. Half an hour later, the boarding call for the flight to Aspen was announced. I popped the SIM card out of my phone and dropped it in the nearest trash can. Goodbye, Chloe. You will never see me again. At 6:30, Chloe stood at the entrance of the Grand State Hotel, greeting guests as they arrived. Most of them were our mutual friends. She kept looking for me, but I wasn't there. She pulled out her phone and called me, only to be met with the cold, automated voice. The number you have dialed is not in service. She frowned, a knot of dread tightening in her stomach. Was he so angry that he was going to skip his own birthday party? She clutched her phone, her mind racing back to that afternoon. During our meal, She'd gotten that text from Julian about his incision bleeding, and she'd left me to take him to the hospital. At the hospital, the doctor had said Julian's agitation, combined with a lack of rest, had caused the bleeding, and that he needed more care and attention. It was my birthday, and she had planned to just calm Julian down and then come back to me. But in his room, he'd clung to her. "I want to be with our baby," he'd whined. "Please, just stay a little longer." Her expression had cooled. "No," she'd said firmly. "It's Ethan's birthday. I have to be with him." But as she turned to leave, he had curled into a ball on the bed, crying out that his wound hurt, that he just wanted to be near his baby. In the end, she had given in and spent the entire afternoon with him. It was only when the party was about to start that she managed to leave, and only after promising him a surprise later that night. But now, here she was at the hotel and she couldn't reach me. "Honey, why is your phone off?" Frantic, she tried calling again and again, each time getting the same automated message. My secretary, who had been waiting nearby, checked her watch, then approached Chloe holding the gift box. "Ms. Sullivan," she said, "Mr. Miller has 2 surprises for you tonight. Would you like to open the first one now?" Chloe eagerly took the box. As she was about to open it, her eyes caught the words written on top, "A gift for your second marriage." Her face fell, her voice turning sharp. "Why does it say that? Did you bring the wrong box?" My secretary shook her head. "No, Ms. Sullivan. This is the one he gave me." A terrible feeling washed over Chloe. She handed the box back as if it were venomous, taking 2 steps back. She immediately called our housekeeper. "Has Ethan left the house yet? Tell him to come to the party." "Ma'am," the housekeeper replied hesitantly. "Mr. Miller left 6 hours ago, with a suitcase." Chloe's heart lurched, her pupils constricting. "What? Where did he go? Why didn't any of you tell me?" The housekeeper's voice was apologetic. "Before he left, Sir said his goodbyes. He thanked us for our 5 years of service and gave each of us a $5,000 bonus. He specifically told us not to inform you that he was leaving." Chloe's head throbbed. It felt like a part of her heart was being ripped away, an agonizing pain. She wanted to rush home, but she was trapped here by the party. "Go to the master bedroom. The nightstand on the left side of the bed. Check the top drawer. Are Ethan's documents still there?" The housekeeper rushed upstairs. He opened the drawer and searched it. "Ma'am," he reported, his voice trembling, "only your documents are here. His ID, his passport, his driver's license, they're all gone. And after you left this afternoon, he had all of his belongings removed from the house. He said he was donating everything to charity." For a moment, Chloe was completely stunned. The hand holding her phone began to shake, a flicker of fear in her eyes. All his things were gone, donated. Was he leaving her on his own birthday to start a new life? Impossible. She hung up and, refusing to give up, sent me a text. "Honey, we were supposed to celebrate together. Please don't be angry. Where are you? I'll come get you." The moment she hit send, a notification popped up. I had blocked her number. She stared at the screen, then tried again, typing "honey." The same not delivered message appeared. My secretary stood nearby, watching her silently. She once again offered the gift box. "Ms. Sullivan," she said softly, "Mr. Miller said you would find your answers inside." Chloe's gaze fell back to the box. Her mind a numb fog, she took it and opened it. Inside were the shredded remains of my matching shirt. On top lay the collar, the word husband. I had embroidered myself still intact. She carefully picked it up, stumbling as if she might fall. This was his gift to her? Impossible. This had to be some kind of sick joke. He would never destroy that shirt. A year ago, on our 4th anniversary, I had given her the matching shirt. I had looked at her, my eyes full of love, and said, "Chloe, in my heart, you are my wife, and I am your husband. I cherish every day with you. But if you ever betray that, if you ever disappoint me in this marriage, I will destroy everything that reminds me of us, and I will leave you forever." She stood frozen, as if her soul had been ripped from her body. Ethan had destroyed the shirt. Did that mean he knew? He knew everything? Seeing her frozen, my secretary prompted, "Ms. Sullivan, there's more in the box." Chloe hastily pushed the scraps of fabric aside. Underneath lay the pieces of our shredded marriage certificate. He had even destroyed their marriage certificate. Her hands shaking, she tried to piece it back together, but then she saw what was at the very bottom of the box. She stopped and picked up the divorce agreement. Recognizing my signature, she looked at my secretary, her voice a raw whisper. "He had you get the papers from the safe? The ones I signed?" My secretary nodded. Sir contacted your lawyer a while ago. The divorce is already finalized. That single sentence hit her like a physical blow. Her small frame swayed, and she looked like she might collapse. She stared down at the papers, muttering to herself, "Impossible. This has to be fake. He's just playing a joke on me. Why would he just leave me like this?" My secretary looked at the broken woman before her. "Ms. Sullivan," she said, gesturing upstairs. "Mr. Miller's second surprise is on the 3rd floor. I can take you there now." Chloe's face contorted in resistance. "I'm not going." She was terrified of what other surprises I might have in store for her. My secretary lowered her gaze. "Sir anticipated this. He asked me to tell you, and I quote, 'This is the last surprise I will ever prepare for you. Whether you see it or not is your choice.'" Chloe's face was ashen. After a moment's hesitation, she decided to go upstairs. As she followed Chloe into the elevator, just as the doors were closing, my secretary hit send on her phone. At that exact moment, in the banquet hall on the 2nd floor, every guest's phone buzzed. One by one, they looked down at their screens, their faces registering shock. "What is this? I just got a wedding invitation for Chloe Sullivan and Julian Vance." "Who's Julian Vance?" "But tonight is Ethan's birthday party. The one Chloe planned. Did they get divorced? I think we're about to see the scandal of the year. Let's go up to the 3rd floor." A wave of guests started heading for the 3rd floor. Meanwhile, on the 3rd floor, the elevator doors opened to reveal a hallway lined with easels, each displaying one of the wedding photos she and Julian had just taken. Above the entrance to the ballroom, a large banner read, "Congratulations to Chloe Sullivan and Julian Vance on their wedding." Chloe stared, her face turning a sickly pale. Who would dare to arrange a wedding for her and Julian without her permission? Then a thought struck her. She spun around to face my secretary. This isn't Ethan's surprise, is it?" My secretary lowered her eyes and gestured toward the ballroom. "Ms. Sullivan, the real surprise is inside." Chloe's mind went blank. She didn't remember walking into the ballroom, only that when she did, the sight that greeted her felt like a bolt of lightning, short-circuiting her brain. On a massive screen at the front of the room, a slideshow was playing, our finalized divorce papers, all 99 of her wedding photos with Julian, and the pictures of her dinner with his parents. Chloe staggered back and collapsed into a chair, her eyes vacant. She replayed our recent interactions in her mind, and it finally clicked. I must have known about Julian all along. Otherwise, the look in my eyes when she left that afternoon wouldn't have been so utterly desolate. My goodbye hadn't just been a word, it had been a final farewell, and she had foolishly believed her secret was safe. But her thing with Julian was just physical, she told herself. Her heart wasn't involved. Ethan had it all wrong. She looked at my secretary again, her voice laced with grief. "Where is he?" The secretary shook her head. "I'm sorry. He instructed me not to tell you." Just then, a figure burst through the doors. It was Julian, dressed in a tuxedo. He looked at the slideshow on the screen, his face beaming with excitement, all traces of his earlier illness gone. "This is the surprise? A wedding? Chloe, I love it." In stark contrast to his delight, Chloe's face was a thundercloud. "Who told you to come here? Go home. We'll talk later." Julian's brow furrowed, his handsome features twisting with displeasure. He couldn't wait to marry her. "Didn't you send for me? This is our wedding, you planned it. Of course I'm here. But Chloe, since you divorced Ethan, why didn't you tell me? Was that part of the surprise? So when does the ceremony start? Did you invite my parents? Are there more surprises?" His barrage of questions made Chloe's head spin. She was about to tell him to leave when a crowd of people surged into the room. It was the guests from downstairs, all of them staring in shock at the wedding decorations. They gaped at the screen, at the divorce papers, the wedding photos, the picture of her with his parents. Suddenly, the screen flickered and began playing the video I had taken at the lake, of the G-Wagon rocking back and forth. Someone in the crowd shouted, "Hey, the guy in that car isn't Ethan. It looks like that Julian guy." The room erupted in murmurs, a mixture of gossip, outrage, and disbelief. My friends, however, were furious on my behalf. So my best friend got cheated on? No wonder he didn't show up tonight. He's done with her. I'd dump her too. The perfect wife, my ass. The other guy isn't even that good looking. Must be good in bed, I guess. Chloe's face was dark with rage. She called the hotel manager and demanded he shut off the screen. But the screen flickered again, this time displaying a series of text message screenshots. My screenshots. The first was Julian's taunting voice message, which my secretary had thoughtfully paired with audio. Been back in the country 6 months, and all it took was a little wink to get her back. She arranged this blue fireworks show for me tonight. I'm not a fan of blue, so happy anniversary. Don't let them go to waste." The crowd gasped. Julian's face went white with panic. The message was accompanied by a photo of Chloe and Julian in bed together, and another of Julian taking a selfie in my custom-made shirt. The second screenshot was the photo of her and Julian's candlelight dinner on our anniversary. The third was the map pin she had sent him for their rendezvous at the lake. The fourth was the wedding photos, along with his taunt about being willing to share her with me. The guests started whispering. Wait, the message came from Chloe's phone, but it was Julian's voice? The same sharp-eyed guest from before spoke up again. I've got a theory. What if Julian took her phone and sent all this to Ethan himself? The explanation clicked, and the crowd's confusion turned to outrage. What kind of scumbag does that? Uses a woman's phone to taunt her husband? Even Chloe's own friends were now joining mine in shouting insults at Julian. The realization dawned on Chloe. Her eyes were bloodshot with fury as she advanced on Julian. You told me you were just playing a game on my phone, but you were texting Ethan, weren't you? Taunting him. Did I not warn you? I told you I would give you anything, but you could not let Ethan find out about you. Did I not make it clear that I have only one husband, and his name is Ethan? She looked at the screen, at the proof of his deception, and a wave of pity for me washed over her. She couldn't imagine what I must have gone through, how devastated and helpless I must have felt every time one of his taunts arrived. If the roles had been reversed, she would have lost her mind. Her face was a mask of cold fury as she glared at him. Julian shook his head, stunned by her coldness. It was the first time she'd ever looked at him that way. He called me first, he stammered, trying to defend himself. He was yelling at me. I couldn't just take it. I had to fight back. Her eyes blazing, she grabbed her purse and started hitting him with it, over and over. You're still lying? Ethan would never call and yell at you. He wouldn't even waste his breath on you. The blows landed on his fresh incision, and he winced in pain, his face pale. My stitches, he gasped. Don't be angry. You'll scare the baby. Chloe took a deep breath and lowered her purse. If you weren't the father of this child, she said through clenched teeth, I would end you right here. You're lucky that's all you are to me. Julian gasped for air, his eyes avoiding hers. The hotel manager finally arrived and tried to shut off the screen with the remote, but it was unresponsive. In the end, he had to have someone cut the power to the entire room. The farce ended, and the guests dispersed in a cloud of scandal. Soon, Chloe was left alone in the vast, silent ballroom. She picked up her phone and called Kevin. The moment he answered, before she could say a word, he started in. Well, if it isn't the blushing bride. Congratulations on your big day. Sorry I couldn't make it. I hate to miss the wedding of the century. Chloe's voice was hoarse. It was all a misunderstanding, she said. Ethan has it all wrong. I'll explain everything to him. A misunderstanding? Kevin scoffed. Getting knocked up by your first love is a misunderstanding? Chloe, you know better than anyone how much Ethan gave for you, for your marriage. I was a junior in college in Chicago when I met her. My plan had been to move to Aspen with my parents after graduation, but then I met her. I, who had been pampered my whole life, who could have had anything, chose to stay here, for her, only visiting my parents in Aspen for 1 week a year. All because, in the heat of our early romance, she had whispered, stay with me, and I had. For the 5 years we were married, everyone thought I was just some kept man, living off her money. But few people knew that I was the one who managed some of her most important business relationships. I was good with people, and because I loved her world. In 5 years, I had won over everyone in her inner circle. Chloe's face was white as a sheet. He knows I'm pregnant? She finally managed to ask, her voice a rasp. But I was so careful. Julian told him, Kevin said with a sneer. What was your plan, Chloe? Hide it from him forever? Secretly have the baby and raise it on your own? In that moment, Kevin was glad I had gotten out when I did. A woman like her, who could play 2 men at once, was not someone to build a life with. I deserved better. Her thoughts exposed, Chloe's face hardened. Where is he? I'm going to find him and explain. Kevin's voice turned sharp. Will you get rid of the baby? If you will, I'll tell you where he is. Chloe hesitated, then sighed. You don't understand. Ethan, he has a medical condition. He can't have children. After the baby is born, I'll make Julian leave Chicago and never come back. Kevin shook his head, his heart aching for me. I had foolishly taken the blame for her infertility, And even now, after everything, her first thought was still about having this child. Even if it were true, even if I couldn't give her a child, she shouldn't have chosen the most painful way imaginable to have one. I have nothing more to say to you. Chloe, one day, you will pay for what you've done. Chloe frowned. Something about his words felt strange, ominous. Before she could ask more, he hung up. Still determined, she began calling my other friends, one by one, trying to find me. Almost all of my friends, except for Kevin, had come to the party. Now, knowing the truth, some of them didn't even answer her calls. Those who did, gave her an earful defending me. After dozens of calls, she still had no idea where I was. Left with no other choice, she hired a private investigator. The next day, her assistant came into her office. "Ms. Sullivan," he said carefully. "Mr. Miller, he's gone to Aspen." Aspen. Chloe's face grew grim. She closed her eyes, a wave of despair washing over her. 5 years ago, when we got married, my parents had made her sign an agreement. If she ever hurt me so badly that I returned to Aspen alone, she was forbidden from ever setting foot in the state of Colorado again. If she did, all of her personal assets would be automatically transferred to me. After a moment of silence, she said, her voice raspy, "Book me a flight to Aspen, the earliest one you can find." Her assistant was shocked. "Ms. Sullivan, if you go to Colorado, the agreement will take effect, whether you get back together with him or not. You'll lose everything. Are you sure you want to do that?" She had to see me. She had to explain. She told him to book the flight and hurried home. She hadn't dared to go home last night. Now, standing in the house, she saw that the housekeeper was right. Every trace of me was gone. She went to our bedroom and opened the drawer of my nightstand. All my documents were gone. Her heart seized. Staring at the empty room, she was crushed by an overwhelming sense of hopelessness. She told the staff to pack a bag for her and to print out every photo of us she had on her phone. She was going to Aspen to win me back. An hour later, just as she was about to leave for the airport, someone burst into the house. It was Julian. He grabbed her. "You're going to Aspen? What if all this stress causes you to lose the baby?" 10 minutes earlier, in his new house, Julian had learned about the agreement. If she went to Colorado, she would lose her fortune, and he would lose his meal ticket. He couldn't let that happen. Chloe struggled in his arms. "I'll only be gone for a week." He shook his head. "Your health is fragile. A fight with Ethan could cause a miscarriage. If you're so determined to go, then get rid of the baby first. As the father, I have a right to demand that." He was gambling that she wanted this child, this non-existent child, more than anything. She hesitated, then, finally, she relented. She found a compromise. "I'll wait 2 months. Once the pregnancy is more stable, I'll go find him." She looked at Julian, her eyes cold. "You had better pray that this baby is born healthy, or I will make you and your entire family wish you were never born." The look in her eyes was so chilling it made him afraid. If she ever found out she wasn't pregnant, that he had paid a doctor to fake the report, no, he had covered his tracks. She would never know. He'd just have to be extra persuasive for a while. Meanwhile, at the airport in Aspen, I walked out with my suitcase and saw my parents waiting for me. My mom looked at my gaunt face, and I could see her heart breaking as she fought back tears. The son she had raised with so much love and care, reduced to this tired, broken man after just 5 years of marriage. The light had gone out of my eyes. "Is everything back in Chicago settled?" my dad asked. I looked at them, knowing I couldn't hide the truth. "Mom, Dad," I choked out, "I'm so sorry." My parents were well respected in Aspen. I couldn't imagine the humiliation this scandal would bring them. My mom pulled me into a hug. "It's not your fault, sweetheart. You gave everything to your marriage. There's no shame in that. The shame belongs to the one who betrays that love." My dad, who had been quiet until now, nodded in agreement. "Divorcing a woman like that is a blessing. You're home now. Your mother and I will take care of you. You don't have to take over the family business if you don't want to. We have more than enough to support you for the rest of your life." My mom took my hand, her voice soft. "Son, divorce isn't the end of the world. You're our son. You will always have a safety net. You can always start over." My eyes stung with tears. For the first time in a long time, I felt a flicker of warmth in my cold, empty heart. No matter what, my parents would always be my rock. "Mom, Dad," I said, "I want to go back to school for a while. I'll take over the company when I'm ready." For 7 years, I had been lost in love. From now on, my focus would be on my work and on my parents. Meanwhile, back in Chicago, Chloe had promised Julian she would wait 2 months before coming to find me. But in the meantime, she was clearly keeping her distance from him. He asked her to dinner. She said she was too busy with work. He complained that his incision hurt. She sent a doctor to his house. He told her he missed her so much he couldn't eat. She told him he'd be fine after a day or two. She even made him sign an agreement. After the child was born, she would give him a large sum of money, on the condition that he disappear from their lives forever and never set foot in Chicago again. Julian stared at the agreement, aghast. Why? It's our child. You can't just cut me out of his life. Chloe's face was grim. She touched her stomach. You should be grateful I'm letting you be the father at all. After he signed, she started a new campaign. She began posting handwritten letters on her Twitter, expressing her deep regret and begging for my forgiveness. To prove her sincerity, she even posted videos of herself writing them. But the public wasn't buying it. The story of her secret wedding photoshoot had already gone viral. The comments sections were flooded with angry messages. Too little, too late. She ignored the comments and continued to post a new letter every day, like clockwork. Sometimes they were letters of self-reflection. Sometimes they were filled with fond memories of our time together. Sometimes they were simply pleas for my forgiveness. After a month of this, her persistence began to win some people over. The tide of public opinion started to turn. Julian grew increasingly anxious. Her visits had dwindled to once a week, and when she did come, it was only for a few minutes, just long enough for him to say a few words to the non-existent baby in her belly before she left. She was treating him as nothing more than a sperm donor. With only 1 month left before she was scheduled to leave for Aspen, Julian, feeling desperate, made a phone call. That evening, a black sedan pulled up in front of Julian's house. A young woman got out, lit a cigarette, and sauntered inside. She was dressed head to toe in black leather, her pretty face framed by a rebellious, wild look in her eyes. Seeing her, Julian jumped up from the sofa. Victoria, are you crazy? Having your driver pull right up to the front door. Victoria Hayes leaned in close and blew a cloud of smoke in his face. What are you so scared of? She purred. You think Chloe doesn't know about us? Julian coughed, waving the smoke away as he backed up. She plopped down on the sofa, crossing her legs and looking him up and down. So, you called me here to get back together? Julian looked at her with distaste, wondering what he had ever seen in her. He got straight to the point. Chloe's not pregnant. What? Her eyes widened, and she choked on her cigarette, coughing violently. The whole affair had been all over the news, so she knew the basic story. She stared at him, her brow furrowed. Are you insane? How could you lie to her about something like that? He shot her a look of disgust and muttered, I wish I could have gotten her pregnant. Maybe you're the one with the problem, she said, eyeing him skeptically. Enough, he snapped. I need to talk to you about something serious. He explained the whole situation, that Chloe didn't know the pregnancy was fake, and that she was planning to go to Aspen. Victoria listened, then stubbed out her cigarette on his coffee table. So let me get this straight, she said, her eyes narrowed. If Chloe goes to Colorado, all her money goes to Ethan, and you get nothing. What's that got to do with me? Julian looked at her, a strange glint in his eye. It has everything to do with you. This is your chance to finally get what you deserve. She frowned. What are you planning? He narrowed his eyes, studying her. Victoria was his ex-girlfriend and a member of the powerful Hayes family from Denver. The Hayes family was one of the most prominent families in Denver, with a fortune that dwarfed even the Sullivans. But what he hadn't known when they were dating was that Victoria was the product of an affair. The Hayes family had strict rules. Illegitimate children were not allowed to have any part in the family business. So for years, Victoria had been living on a small allowance, completely cut off from the family fortune. Julian stared at her, his voice cold in the dim light of the living room. Go to Aspen, he said, and get rid of Ethan. She paused, her lighter halfway to her cigarette, and stared at him in shock. He was serious. He wanted him dead. What does any of this have to do with me? A coldness crept into his expression. Victoria, Chloe is set to inherit the entire Sullivan fortune. If you help me secure my position with her, I'll make sure you're well compensated. In your family, you'll never be more than the girl with an allowance. And if you try to make it on your own, your father's wife will do everything in her power to crush you. Get rid of Ethan. Keep Chloe from going to Colorado. Once I'm in control, I'll make sure you never have to worry about money or your family again. And what's more, I have a plan. I'll stage a miscarriage for Chloe. Then we'll convince her to do IVF. She'll carry our child. His words hung in the dim air, heavy with promise. Victoria looked out at the moon, a greedy look in her eyes. She was tempted. Fine, she said. I'll book a flight for tomorrow. Before she left, she grabbed his chin, her voice a low threat. If you double-cross me, I'll kill you. Meanwhile, at my family's home in Aspen, I had just finished an online class and was relaxing on a lounge chair on the balcony, enjoying the warmth from a small fire pit. This past month, free from the toxicity of my marriage and engrossed in my studies, I had started to feel like myself again. I felt healthier, more alive. I was about to peel a roasted sweet potato when my phone rang. It was Kevin, his voice dripping with sarcasm. So, have you seen the devoted wife's latest performance? She's posting handwritten love letters all over the internet now. I frowned, a look of disgust on my face. You have no idea, he continued. She posts a new one every day, complete with a video of her writing it. She's got the whole internet feeling sorry for her. He went on for a bit, then his tone shifted. I also heard she's planning on coming to Aspen to find you in a month. I stopped peeling my potato. I won't see her. I know, he said. I'm just worried. If she comes, that agreement kicks in. If you don't take her back, she'll have lost everything. A woman with nothing to lose can be dangerous. I realized then that he was calling to warn me. He was a good friend. I'll be careful. After we hung up, I decided not to tell my parents that Chloe was coming. They had been worried enough about me already. They were even preparing to announce that I would be taking over the family business. That afternoon, my mom came home from work and knocked on my door. We're going out to dinner tomorrow night, she said. Your father and I want you to meet someone. I looked up from my computer. Okay, I said. I knew my parents' routine by now. A private dinner meant they were meeting with someone important. The next evening, I drove my parents to the restaurant. I didn't notice the black car tailing us. The restaurant was perched on a cliff overlooking a stunning mountain lake. We had just been seated when I excused myself to wash my hands. On my way, I stopped on the outdoor walkway, captivated by the view. The vast expanse of water, the crisp, cool air on my face. I loved it. As I stood there, lost in the moment, a dark figure came up behind me, put both hands on my shoulders, and shoved. I stumbled, reaching for the railing, but he pushed again, harder this time. I plunged over the edge, into the icy water below. The shock of the cold water stole my breath. I tried to scream for help, but no sound came out. The churning water pulled me under. Just as I was about to lose consciousness, a hand grabbed my arm and pulled. 5 minutes later, I was being pulled back onto the walkway. I opened my eyes weakly and found myself in the arms of a beautiful woman. She was soaked to the skin, her elegant cream-colored dress clinging to her body, her hair dripping, but none of it detracted from her stunning beauty. She looked at me and helped me to my feet. Mr. Miller, she said, it's cold. Let's get you into some dry clothes. 5 minutes later, dressed in dry clothes, I was standing in front of a space heater, trying to get warm. The warmth slowly brought me back to my senses. I stared at her. You know who I am? I remembered she had called me Mr. Miller. Sierra Croft smiled. She had changed into a simple, elegant black dress and looked absolutely radiant. I know your father, George Miller. I was stunned. You're the person my parents wanted me to meet tonight? She smiled and nodded. I looked at her, impressed. For my parents to hold someone in such high regard, she had to be someone extraordinary. My parents had introduced me to a lot of people over the past month, but they were all their age, not mine. I looked at her. Please, I said quietly, don't tell my parents what happened. I don't want to worry them. Of course. We walked back to the dining room. She let me go in first, waiting a few minutes before following. My mom looked at my new clothes, confused. Why did you change? I slipped in the restroom and got my clothes wet. I lied, looking down. Sierra's eyes met mine for a second, a small, knowing smile playing on her lips. The rest of the dinner was pleasant, and I learned more about her. Her family, the Crofts, were in the oil business, and they were even more successful than my own family. When my parents were ready to leave, I made an excuse to stay behind. You want to see the security footage, don't you? Sierra asked, her eyes meeting mine. I was surprised she had read my mind so easily. I hadn't wanted to say anything in front of my parents. I needed to know who had tried to kill me. From the force of the push, I knew it had to be a man. Sierra stood up. I'll take you to the manager. A while later, in the security office, a staff member shook his head. The man covered the camera right before it happened. Mr. Miller, we don't have any footage of you being pushed. But, he added carefully, we think he was working for someone. Our entrance camera shows him getting out of a woman's car in the parking lot. I frowned. Did you get a clear shot of either of their faces? For employees spent the next half hour reviewing the footage, but they all shook their heads. Sorry, they were both wearing hats and masks. We can't see their faces. My expression was grim. Send me all the footage you have of the woman. I want the person who hired him. On the way home, I sent the footage to Kevin. Find out who this is. He sensed the urgency in my tone. What happened? I told him what had happened. If Sierra hadn't been there, I'd be dead. His voice was grim. Leave it to me. I'll find her. Meanwhile, back in Chicago, Julian had called Chloe a dozen times with no answer. He threw his phone onto the sofa in frustration. Suddenly, it rang. He snatched it up, but his face fell when he saw it was Victoria calling. What do you mean he was saved? Who was she? As he listened to her story, his face grew dark, his eyes filled with a jealous rage. How could Ethan be so damn lucky? He got lucky this time, Victoria said from her car, her voice laced with venom. He'll be on his guard now. It'll be harder to get to him. Don't do anything rash, Julian said in a low voice. Wait for the right moment. He hung up. A week later, I started working at the family company. My parents, worried I would be overwhelmed, started me off with a light workload. But after so long out of the workforce, I still felt anxious. Luckily, Sierra was there to help. Don't be so anxious, she'd tell me. Think of it as a game. If you land the client, great. If not, you've made a new contact. When the pressure started to get to me, she'd say, how well do you hold your liquor? When I'm stressed, I like to have a drink. We may be workhorses, but we should at least be happy workhorses. Her sense of humor always made me laugh. She was no workhorse. She was born with a silver spoon in her mouth. With her around to lighten the mood, the week passed smoothly. But Victoria was growing impatient. My predictable routine gave her no openings. One day, after a big meeting, I got a call from Kevin. Ethan, I found her, he said, his voice grim. I went back to my office and closed the door. Who is she? Victoria Hayes, Julian's ex. Kevin filled me in on the details. Victoria Hayes of the Denver Hayes. Her family was even wealthier than the Sullivans, but she was illegitimate. Her mother had been too ambitious, and the family patriarch had caught on early. He'd had Victoria watched her whole life, making sure she never got anywhere near the family business. Julian had broken up with her as soon as he found out. He'd gone abroad, found another wealthy girlfriend, but she'd dumped him. He'd only come back to Chloe as a last resort. I frowned. So she's working with Julian. Kevin was silent for a moment. That's what I think too. She clearly tried to kill you. My guess is she wants you out of the picture so Chloe can't go to Aspen and lose her fortune. He added, I don't know what kind of lies he's been feeding her. I sat back in my chair, thinking, if that's what they want, I said finally, then let's give it to them. Kevin frowned. You want to fake your own death? I nodded. Think about it. If I'm dead, Chloe will come for the funeral. The agreement will be triggered, and she'll lose her fortune. A fitting punishment for her little act. Julian will call off his attack dog, so I won't have to worry about her anymore. And best of all, when Chloe comes to mourn me, Julian, who's only after her money, will be left with nothing. It's 3 birds with 1 stone, but to pull it off, I would need help. After thinking it over, I went to see Sierra. So, you want me to help you find a way to let someone kill you without you actually dying? She asked, a curious look on her face. I nodded and told her the whole story. As I spoke, I felt detached, as if I were telling someone else's story. I need to be free of them, but I can't just let them get away with it. Faking my death is the only way. She looked at me, her eyes filled with sympathy. She thought for a moment. Normally, a drowning would be the easiest to fake, but after what just happened, you won't be going near any cliffs. A fall is too risky. I think a car accident is our best bet. A car accident? I considered it. She was right. My routine was predictable, but I was also being careful. Victoria wouldn't have many opportunities. Tampering with my car would be the easiest way to get to me. But how do we get her to do it? Sierra smiled. Leave that to me. Thank you, I said, my heart filled with gratitude. The next day, frustrated by her lack of progress, Victoria went to a diner near her apartment for lunch. Just as she was ordering, 2 men in black hats walked in. They looked like brothers, big, muscular guys covered in tattoos. They did not look like friendly types. They sat at the table next to hers, tossing a heavy-looking backpack onto the empty chair, and started talking in low voices. This next job should set us up for a good 6 months, one of them said. They clinked their beer bottles together and took long swigs. The car's been tampered with, the other one said. And with this reign, the kid's a goner as soon as he gets behind the wheel. He shook his head. Goes to show you should never get a stepmom. They pretend to be nice for a couple of years, but as soon as the kid's old enough to inherit, they can't wait to get rid of him. Hearing this, an idea began to form in Victoria's mind. She was dying to talk to them, but couldn't find an opening. The first man winked at his partner. If it weren't for evil people, he said loudly, how would guys like us make a living? The younger one grinned. The more the merrier. A few more jobs like this and we can retire. That was all Victoria needed to hear. She got up and slid into their booth. Gentlemen, she said with a charming smile, lunch is on me. I have a small favor to ask. The older man eyed her suspiciously. Do we know you? She shook her head, her smile widening. No, but I have a business proposition for you. You're already doing one job, what's one more? Whatever your last client paid you, I'll double it. The two men exchanged a look. The older one thought for a moment, then shrugged. Fine, a deal's a deal. Money is money. Victoria breathed a sigh of relief and clinked her beer bottle against theirs. They talked for half an hour. She showed them my picture, then left satisfied. As soon as she was gone, the older man went out to his car and called Sierra. Ms. Croft, he said. She took the bait. Sierra sat at her desk, twirling a pen in her fingers. What did she say? The man, William, recounted her plan. She wants us to wait for the next rainy day and tamper with Mr. Miller's car while it's in his office parking garage. He paused, his voice low. She was very specific. She wants it to be fatal. No mistakes. If we succeed, she'll give us an extra $500,000. Sierra stopped twirling the pen, a cold look on her face. She's generous. I'll give her that. William heard the ice in her voice and was taken aback. Miss Croft was usually so composed, but he could hear the anger in her voice now. So, what are your instructions? Sierra thought for a moment. Just do enough to make it look convincing. I'll handle the rest. She would arrange for a stand-in to drive my car and stage the accident. Understood, Miss Croft. 5 days later, a heavy rain fell over Aspen. That morning, I drove to work as usual and parked in the underground garage. From a car parked nearby, Victoria watched me walk toward the elevator. Then she called William. Wait until the morning rush is over, then you can go in. Yes, Miss Hayes. During the lunch hour, when the garage was empty, William and his brother, dressed in black, slipped in, tampered with my car, and slipped out again. Once they were clear, William texted Victoria. It's done. The rest of the payment has been sent, she replied. If this works, you'll get the bonus $500,000. Thank you, Miss Hayes. That evening, the parking garage slowly emptied out. Victoria waited in her car. At 7:30, she saw me walking toward my car. I got in, started the engine, and pulled out of the garage. She quickly pulled out and followed me. Behind the wheel, I watched her in my rearview mirror as I drove. On a deserted downhill stretch of road, I jerked the wheel. The car skidded, spun 3 times, and then slammed into a tree. Almost instantly, the front of the car erupted in flames. Victoria smiled, satisfied. She took a picture with her phone, then calmly drove away. Half an hour later, my devastated parents rushed to the hospital. They issued a public obituary. It is with the deepest sorrow that we announce the passing of our beloved son, Ethan Miller, on December 20th, 2024, at 8:07 p.m., following a tragic car accident. He was 27 years old. Ethan was a loving, kind soul who cherished life, and his laughter will echo in our hearts forever. May he rest in peace. We will love you for all of eternity, our son. The announcement sent shockwaves through our community. Back in Chicago, Julian stared at the screenshot of the obituary Victoria had sent him, pacing his living room with manic excitement. He let out a wild, unhinged laugh, muttering to himself, finally, the obstacle is gone. Don't blame me, Ethan. You were just in the way of my fortune. Chloe was in a late-night board meeting when she got the news. Her phone buzzed. She glanced down and saw the text from a friend, a link to my obituary. Her eyes went red, and her small frame began to tremble violently, as if a part of her was being physically torn away. Impossible, she shrieked, her voice cracking with hysteria. Ethan can't be dead. Her assistant, seeing her lose control in front of the board for the first time, knew something was terribly wrong. He glanced at her phone screen, saw the obituary, and after a moment of shock, quickly dismissed the other executives. Ms. Sullivan, my deepest condolences. Her eyes bloodshot, Chloe staggered to her feet. As she tried to walk out, her vision went black, and she collapsed. Her assistant rushed to catch her. Ms. Sullivan, somebody help. Get her to a hospital. 2 hours later, Chloe opened her eyes. The first thing she did was grab her phone and read the obituary again. Her body shaking, she broke down into racking sobs. Ethan, I'm so sorry. How could you leave me all alone? How am I supposed to live without you? Mumbling to herself, she looked at her assistant, her eyes red and swollen. Book me the next flight to Aspen. I have to see him one last time. Just as she said it, Julian, who had just arrived, stood frozen in the doorway. He stared at her, a broken, hysterical mess, an unreadable expression in his eyes. When he had left her all those years ago, she hadn't been this distraught. What was so special about Ethan, anyway? He walked over to her and grabbed her hand, his voice rising with a hysterical edge of his own. You're going to Aspen? He's dead. What's the point? If you go, you'll come back with nothing. She snapped her head up and violently threw his hand off her. She rose, her face a mask of cold fury, and advanced on him. Frightened by the venom in her eyes, he backed away until his back hit the wall. She pounded on his chest with her small fists. If you hadn't stopped me, if you had let me go to him, we would have made up. He wouldn't have been in that car. You killed him. You indirectly killed Ethan. I can't get too upset right now for the baby's sake. But after this child is born, I will make you suffer until you beg for death. Her voice was so vicious that he trembled in fear, unable to speak. When she finally let go, he watched her walk away with cold determination. He collapsed to the floor, his eyes a storm of panic and hatred. It was over. Everything was over. He had planned for everything except for this. He never imagined she would know about the consequences and still choose to go. No. The moment she landed in Colorado, the agreement would activate. What good would a penniless Chloe be to him? He had to get back on good terms with Victoria. Even as an illegitimate daughter, she was a better prospect than a broke Chloe. He immediately picked up his phone and called Victoria, his voice smooth as silk. When are you coming back to Chicago? I'll cook you a welcome home dinner myself. The next afternoon, at my funeral, a light rain fell from a gray, overcast sky. My parents walked in holding my portrait. The chapel was filled with mourners. Chloe arrived in a rush, her face pale and drawn, without a trace of makeup. She looked as if she had aged a decade overnight. She staggered down the aisle and fell to her knees before my casket. I'm sorry, honey, she whispered, her voice breaking. I'm so sorry I'm late. Then she began to slap her own face, hard. I never should have listened to Julian, she sobbed. I should have come to you right away. Does it hurt? It must have hurt so much. If I had been here, I could have saved you. Honey, please wake up. Please wake up and look at me. The other mourners watched in stunned silence. Most of them knew the story of our marriage. The rumor was that she didn't love her husband, that she was in love with another man. But watching her now, it was hard to believe those rumors were true. My parents stood to the side, watching her with cold, hard eyes. They exchanged a look but said nothing. Chloe didn't notice a familiar figure standing amongst the crowd of mourners. A man in black casual clothes and a black face mask, staring at her with cold eyes. Sierra, holding a black umbrella over my head, saw me watching Chloe. Feeling sorry for her? She asked quietly. I frowned and met her gaze, my voice flat and cold. I don't feel sorry for her. I feel sorry for myself. The night I got that first message from Julian, I didn't sleep at all while she was sleeping soundly next to him. The fireworks on our anniversary were his leftovers. When I was lying in a hospital bed, she moved him into our house, into our bed. If I'm going to feel sorry for anyone, it should be for myself. Sierra looked away. Seeing the distant look in my eyes, she said, Should we go? Perhaps a walk would be good, Mr. Newman. A smile touched my lips. Yes, I said. Just yesterday, I had received my new identification. My name is now Ethan Newman, a new man. A week later, my parents made a public announcement. Their distant nephew, Ethan Newman, would be taking over the family business. The news caused another stir in the elite circles of Aspen. Back in Chicago, Chloe had been in a deep depression ever since she returned from Aspen. She drank all day, clutching my portrait and sobbing. Ethan, you're just tricking me, aren't you? You're not really dead. Please come back. I was wrong. I'll never betray you again. I shouldn't have cheated. During this time, while she was falling apart, Mr. Davis, the lawyer, took the agreement she had signed 5 years ago and initiated the transfer of assets. Since Ethan Miller was legally deceased, all of her assets were transferred to my parents. My mother showed her no mercy. Her houses, her cars, her art collection, she instructed Mr. Davis over the phone. Liquidate everything. Don't leave her a single thing. She wanted Chloe to learn that faithfulness is rewarded, and betrayal leads to ruin. Yes, Mrs. Miller. A week later, Mr. Davis arrived at Chloe's mansion. He looked at the gaunt, broken woman before him, a flicker of surprise in his eyes. It was gone in an instant, his expression returning to professional neutrality. Ms. Sullivan, Mrs. Miller has instructed me to sell this property. The new owner has signed the papers and will be taking possession today. I must ask you to. Before he could finish, she looked up, a bitter, broken smile on her face. To leave? Is that what you're saying? Ethan's gone. There's nothing of him left here anyway. There's no reason for me to stay. She staggered toward the door, her assistant following close behind, looking concerned. She had been consumed by grief, sleeping only an hour or two a night. At her lowest point, she had even tried to take her own life. She didn't even make it out of the garden before her legs gave out and she collapsed, unconscious. Her assistant rushed her to the hospital. Unable to watch her destroy herself any longer, he made a phone call. 2 hours later, a formidable entourage swept into the hospital. At the head of the group was the Sullivan family matriarch. She strode into the room, and the sight of her granddaughter, so pale and broken, filled her with a cold fury. A nurse was trying to insert an IV into Chloe's hand, but Chloe simply pulled it out. The nurse sighed and tried again. Again, Chloe pulled it out. This time, the needle tore her skin, leaving a trail of blood. Her grandmother could watch no longer. She raised her cane and brought it down hard on the bed next to Chloe. Chloe Sullivan, get on your knees. Seeing her grandmother was like seeing a lifeline, but her words were devoid of any will to live. Grandma, I want to be with Ethan. Please let me go. I want to be buried next to him. Can you talk to his parents for me? The matriarch's face was a mask of stone, her usually kind features frozen in a terrifyingly cold expression. She hauled Chloe out of bed, dragged her to the bathroom mirror, and splashed cold water on her face. Look at yourself. Of all my granddaughters, you have become the greatest disappointment. Chloe slowly raised her head and looked at her reflection. The woman in the mirror was a ghost, with hollow cheeks and dead eyes, a walking corpse radiating despair. In the time since she'd lost me, she had become a shell of her former self. 5 years ago, we had promised to spend our lives together. When did it all change? Had she grown bored of our quiet life, craving excitement? Had watching her friends cycle through men made her envious? Had she thought she could get away with it, growing bolder with every lie? At the thought, she slapped herself again, hard. It was all her fault. She had destroyed their beautiful life together. If she hadn't driven me away, I never would have been in Aspen, never would have been in that car. Her grandmother looked at her, her face a mask of remorse, and sighed heavily. Chloe, once the golden child, the granddaughter she had been most proud of, was now trying to kill herself over a man. Her face grim, she instructed the assistant to help Chloe get cleaned up and dressed. Half an hour later, looking more like her old self, Chloe sat before her grandmother. A file lay on the table between them. Her grandmother opened it and tossed the wedding photos of her and Julian onto her lap. She cleared her throat, her aged voice still commanding authority. Chloe, you were the one who was unfaithful. I have no grounds to appeal to the Millers. Your assets now belong to them. Consider it a small price to pay for the damage you have caused. She then pulled out a stack of recent newspapers and threw them at Chloe. Take a look. See what the world thinks of you now. Chloe frowned and glanced at the headlines. They were all about her, and they were all brutal. Sullivan's secret affair. Did her betrayal lead to ex-husband's death? The faux faithful. CEO Chloe Sullivan's web of lies. Sullivan scandal. A cautionary tale. When our relationship first went public, we had a huge online following. People had followed our story from the wedding to the divorce. Now, knowing the truth, their sympathy was entirely with me. When the news of my death broke, the public turned on her, accusing her of faking her devotion and playing with my heart. The public backlash had been so severe that it was starting to affect her company's stock price. Her grandmother took a deep breath. I will be making a public announcement. For the next 5 years, you are forbidden from any involvement in the family business. This is your punishment. The Sullivan family motto has always been loyalty and family above all. You have failed on both counts. Chloe's eyes went dull as she looked down at the floor. 5 years. In 5 years, with so many other cousins vying for control, she would be left in the dust. She would almost certainly lose her position as the designated heir. But she had already lost Ethan. What did the company matter now? I understand, Grandma. Her grandmother shook her head in disappointment and walked out, leaning on her cane. That evening, when Julian heard that Chloe had been cut off from the family business for 5 years, he sat alone in his living room, his mind reeling. He had called Victoria, offered to cook for her to celebrate, and she had promised to fly back to Chicago immediately. But a short while later, she had called back to say her father had summoned her back to Denver. He hadn't been able to reach her since. Now, with Chloe out of the picture, he had to get back in Victoria's good graces and fast. He tried calling her again, but her phone was still off. After a moment's hesitation, he called her best friend. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. "You don't know? Victoria's dead. Car accident. Dead." Julian's eyes widened in disbelief. He didn't know that she had died on the same day as my funeral. The day of my accident, after returning home, I had contacted her father. I sent him the security footage of her attempts on my life. He was silent for a long time. After apologizing for his daughter's actions, he asked me what I wanted. I didn't ask for money. I just wanted justice and for him to keep my secret. That night, she was summoned back to the States. The next day, the day of my funeral, she arrived at the family estate in Denver. Her father, upon seeing her, had her whipped over 100 times and demanded she turn herself in to the police the next day. But Victoria refused to accept any blame. She blamed her birth, her mother, everything but herself. In the middle of the night, she tried to escape. Her father sent his bodyguards after her. It was raining heavily that night. Her car skidded on the wet road, and she was killed instantly in the crash. Alone in his empty living room, Julian's face was ashen. After thinking it over, he decided his best bet was still Chloe. Their affair was too public. No other wealthy woman would have him now. And now Victoria was dead. Chloe, even disinherited, was still a Sullivan. A fallen Sullivan was still better than nothing. And in 5 years, she would be back in the family's good graces. He just had to be patient. That night, he bribed Chloe's doctor. He had him instruct the nurse to add a pill to her medication, one that would induce vaginal bleeding. The next morning, after taking her medication, Chloe was doubled over in pain, her face pale and covered in a cold sweat. She felt a sudden gush of warmth between her legs. Panicked, she slammed the call button. "Doctor, help me. My baby." The doctor rushed in, and after a quick examination, she was wheeled into surgery. When she woke up later that day and was told she had lost the baby, she broke down completely. "It's gone. Ethan doesn't want me, and now my baby doesn't want me either." Julian stood by her bed, offering hollow comfort. "Don't worry, we can have another." She threw a pillow at him. "Get out," she screamed. "I never want to see you again." 3 days later, she was discharged. At Julian's suggestion, she held a small burial for the baby. She stood before the tiny plot of land, her eyes red. "My baby," she whispered. "I'm so sorry. I couldn't protect you." Julian put his arm around her. "We'll have other children," he said softly. She pushed him away, her voice like ice. "Don't touch me. You're filthy." He froze, then slowly lowered his hand, his face darkening. Not far away, Kevin sat in his car watching them. He called me. "Ethan, I've had her medical reports printed out just like you asked. Someone is about to deliver them to her. I wonder if she'll have any regrets when she learns the truth." Just then, a cemetery employee approached Julian. "Mr. Vance," he said quietly, "we just need you to fill out a bit more paperwork." Julian nodded and followed him. The moment he was gone, a female employee approached Chloe, holding a file. From a distance, Julian saw the woman approach Chloe and hand her some papers. A sense of dread washed over him, and he started walking back. By then, Chloe was already looking at the papers with a confused expression. Name: Chloe Sullivan. Gender: female. Diagnosis: infertility. Her pupils contracted, her hand tightening on the paper. Her face was as white as a sheet. With a trembling hand, she looked at the second page. Pregnancy test results. Name: Chloe Sullivan. Result: negative. The third was a screenshot of a bank transfer from Julian Vance to her doctor. She looked up, her face a mask of pure, cold rage. She turned to Julian, who had just returned, an aura of murderous intent radiating from her. "I was never pregnant," she said, her voice dangerously low. "You lied to me." Julian's face went white. "It's a lie," he stammered. "Someone's trying to frame me. You were pregnant." He grabbed her arm. "Don't believe this. Someone is trying to destroy me." She shook him off and pulled out her phone, dialing the number of Dr. Evans. He was the doctor who had done our original fertility tests. On the other end of the line, the doctor listened, then hesitated. "Ms. Sullivan," he said finally. "When the original test results came back, Mr. Miller begged me to lie. He said that a diagnosis of infertility could damage your reputation, your career, even your position in your family's company. He asked me to alter the records, to say that he was the one with the problem." The doctor paused. "He really loved you, Miss Sullivan." Every word was like a needle piercing her heart, making it hard to breathe. She remembered Kevin's strange, cryptic words on the phone, and she began to laugh, a wild, broken sound. So that's how much he had loved her. He had taken the blame, shouldered the shame, all to protect her pride, her future, and she had thrown it all away. She had pushed away the one man who had truly loved her. Clutching the reports, she collapsed to the ground, sobbing uncontrollably. Julian saw his chance. Seeing her lost in her grief, he tried to slip away, but he didn't get far before she grabbed him. She motioned to her bodyguards, who slammed him to the ground. She brought her heel down hard on his chest, her voice a low, demonic rasp. "Was it fun, Julian? Lying to me? If you hadn't seduced me, if you hadn't kept me from going to him, he would still be alive. Tell me, should I kill you right now? Send you to hell to apologize to him?" With every word, she kicked him in the head. After a few kicks, still not satisfied, she grabbed a nearby shovel and brought it down on his head with all her might. When he looked up, blood was pouring from a gash on his forehead, streaming down his face. He glared at her, his voice filled with bitter resentment. "If you weren't barren, would I have had to lie? What was so great about Ethan anyway? He wanted to leave, fine, but did he have to make such a scene? He just wanted to ruin me. He got what he deserved. If you ask me, Victoria should have acted sooner." He realized his mistake and immediately fell silent. Chloe's eyes narrowed. "You," she said, her voice dangerously quiet. "Had Victoria kill him?" He shook his head frantically. "No, crack." Before he could finish the word, she brought the shovel down again, this time on his mouth. The blow shattered his teeth and ruined his face. He spat out a mouthful of blood. She narrowed her eyes and, in a blind rage, began hitting him again, on his head, his body, anywhere she could. A few minutes later, he was unconscious on the ground. The onlookers watched, horrified, but no one dared to intervene. She only stopped when the police and paramedics arrived. 3 days later, I attended a Miller family event under my new identity, Ethan Newman. I had a new haircut and wore gold-rimmed glasses. In public, I wore a black face mask, my new, distant eyes the only recognizable feature. Back in my new office, I had just sat down when Kevin called. He sounded cheerful. "Well, it seems karma's a bitch. Julian's in a wheelchair, paralyzed from the waist down, and his pretty face is ruined." I stopped scrolling through my emails. "And Chloe? Is she going to prison?" Kevin sighed. "Her grandmother wouldn't allow a Sullivan to go to prison. She paid off his parents a few million to make it all go away. But she had Chloe sent out of the country the day before yesterday. She's not allowed back for 5 years. I hear she's had a complete breakdown. Won't eat or drink. Just sits and draws pictures of you all day." I looked down, my expression unreadable. It was finally over. Kevin was quiet for a moment on the other end of the line. He knew better than anyone what it had taken for me to walk away from a 7-year relationship, to untangle myself from that web of lies and deceit. We talked for a while longer before hanging up. Sierra knocked and came in, placing a box of pineapple tarts from a famous local bakery on my desk. "I just picked these up," she said. "They're your favorite, right?" I looked at her, and for a moment I was reminded of Chloe, back when she was first trying to win me over, bringing me my favorite pineapple tarts. I looked up at her kind, sunny face, and I frowned. "Sierra, I just got out of a 7-year relationship. I'm a wreck. I need some time, at least a couple of months, before I can even think about starting something new. It wouldn't be fair to you to start anything now." My voice was low, but it carried in the quiet office. A small smile played on her lips as she met my gaze. "I'm not in a hurry," she said. "I can wait." She had finally found a man she was interested in. She was willing to wait. I looked at her, a flicker of something new in my eyes. After a moment, I picked up one of the tarts and took a bite. 2 years later, a church in Aspen. A wedding is in progress. The warm sunlight streams through the stained glass windows, casting a golden glow on the bride in her white gown and the groom in his black tuxedo. I look at the beautiful, elegant woman before me, my eyes filled with love. Sierra is holding the microphone, her voice filled with emotion as she reads her vows. "Ethan, my love, you might not believe this, but 3 years ago, I was a confirmed bachelorette. But then your parents came to my office to invite me to dinner, and I saw your picture on your mother's phone. In that moment, something shifted inside me. All I could think was, it's him. If it was with you, I thought maybe marriage wouldn't be so bad. The night you agreed to be my boyfriend, I was so excited I didn't sleep at all. I posted on Facebook that night, something to do, someone to love, something to hope for. And when you proposed, in that moment, I thanked God for bringing you into my life. Ethan, I promise to love only you for the rest of my life. Loyalty is the cornerstone of the Croft family, and it will be the cornerstone of our marriage. 10 years later, Chloe is in Aspen on a business trip. She's having dinner in her hotel restaurant when she sees a familiar face across the room. It's me with Sierra and our 8-year-old son. The boy looks just like me, especially when he smiles. But right now he's pouting, his arms crossed over his chest. Mommy, when Daddy said he wanted to see the lake this morning, you dropped everything to come with him. But when I said I wanted to see the lake 2 days ago, you said we had to wait until summer vacation. That's not fair. I smile, about to comfort my jealous son, but Sierra stops me with a hand on my arm. She ruffles his hair and smiles. Sweetheart, it's not that I'm playing favorites. It's that I love your father very much. When he told me he wanted to see the lake, the thought of him going without me made my heart ache. Chloe watches us, happy, and quickly leaves the restaurant, tears streaming down her face the moment she's outside. This time, she doesn't approach. Ethan, I'm so happy to know you're alive. I'm so sorry, Ethan. In the next life, please, give me another chance to love you right.